like to welcome Colton Morris. He's Coyotes by the number and mentality. And his little helper Vivian is such a blessing to have. She's pretty strong, and I'm sure she's going to be a great shopper. Colton, let's put on a great demo, and thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Hey guys, so what's up? Colton Morris, and I do this Coyote Academy ordeal. It started out kind of as like a YouTube thing, and then it just has kind of progressed into something. But what I like to do is I love trapping coyotes, and I like to try and catch as many as I can in the quickest amount of time that I can. So it's kind of something I wanted to go over with was time. We all have the same amount of time in the day. It just depends on how you go about using that time, and you can maximize that with off-season prep, off-season scouting, pre-season pre-setting, pre-attracting, or pre-baiting as people like calling it. Mapping out your routes ahead of time, doing everything that you can do in the off-season to maximize your return. So I'm sure most of you are like me, and that's what you want. You want the biggest return on your investment. But so there are just a few things that you can do, and we'll go over those. But so with your off-season prep, are you getting it together? And not mentally, but maybe some of you do need to get it together mentally and just, barrel down and get it done. But, anything from tuning traps, getting your equipment ready, drying your peat moss, cutting your screens if you use screens, getting your stuff ready, waxing your dirt, going through trap prep, making sure you got the right equipment on your truck, on your ATV, your side-by-side, doing all your maintenance. And, do you have a fur barn? Do you have a shed? Do you have a basement? Somewhere where you can put fur up, and can you store that fur? Saying, are you going to go out and try and catch as many fur bearers as you can? And then are you going to skin them, flesh them, put them up? I typically just skin them and put them in the freezer. And then I worry about fur put up after that's all said and done. But so big thing is practice. Practice making your sets. I'm not a full-time trapper. I don't trap all year round. So I like to try and stay crisp, and I like to have the motions. And I know, you could say, well, it's just like riding a bike. Well, I don't like going out there the first day presetting and fumbling around, really. I like to get out there and I like to just hammer down, let the foot off the clutch, and ride that baby out. So practice all the stuff, putting snares up on trails. I know as elementary as that sounds, getting quick at doing that, it's just every little bit of time that you can do to save you. You can get more sets in. You've got the chance to catch more fur bearers. I was reading a book, and they said 18 minutes a day. If you can do something for 18 minutes a day, whether that's try and learn a new language or practice something like putting sets in. If you do that over the course of the year, you will be exponentially farther along than your fellow peers in trapping or in whatever you want to do. So working hard and practice, right? Practice makes what?
Perfect.
Wrong. Practice makes improvement. You can't be perfect. I know that's the age-old adage, and that was kind of like a softball for you, low-hanging fruit. But it doesn't make perfect. There's only one perfect, and that's our Creator. But it makes improvement. So improving yourself daily, it's going to make you more proficient, and it's going to make you more efficient on the line. So when do I like to do my scouting, and why? Why do I like to do my scouting? So there are two different times that I like to do my scouting, and I like to do it with my dog, Chuck, or Miley. So early season, in the spring, farmers are kind of still in the shop. That new spring thing is getting rid of seasonal affective disorder, and the old biddies are coming out of their shell and starting to shop for flowers and everything like that. But you're also getting home ranges they're whelping the pups, they're getting them ready, so you can find certain things, whether that's dens, and just because you find a den at one spot, that doesn't mean that they're going to stay there. So you spook them or you startle them, the female or the old bitch will send out, and she'll move them. And I've seen that with fox and coyotes. And then typically in the mid-fall. I'm just going back just to give myself a little bit more confidence. And what am I seeing in the spring? Is that correlating and transferring over to what I'm seeing in the fall? Most of the time it does, but I have been bit in the ass a few times on that. So just something to keep, just something to keep in the back of your mind. What are we looking for? Sign, right? We're looking for sign, but it's a little bit more than that. And so you go from the biggest picture to the smallest picture, and I'm sure everyone's heard of macro location and micro location, but I kind of expand upon that, and I'm going to try and give you a real quick, just a bridge version of it. But so I go mega, macro, micro, and nano. So the mega, that's your whole entire line. So you want to look at your whole entire line, whether you're running a 200-mile line, a 40-mile line. What drainages do you have coming down? What barriers? Do you have towns? Do you have big water systems? Do you have highways? And then what other features there that give you a little bit more of an edge? And so then your macro location, which most people would say, well, this is the location, and then the micro is where you set. But the macro, I look at it as the whole entire farm, so the whole parcel, whether it's farm, whether it's crep, whether it's set aside, or even cut over timber. So after the mega, you just kind of narrow it down, and then you do that even more. And this is the micros are your actual spot. So say right here we're sitting on a big 4-way crop change. Okay, so that's your micro, and then your nano is the actual spot that you're setting your trap. And I usually, I'm assisted by my dogs, and I've gotten to the point where I can kind of make a educated guess and get to where I need to be. But when you're doing that, they're not all gateways, not all waterways, they're not all created equal. So just because, I tell you to go and look at gateways, look at crop changes, look at little field strips or windbreaks, that doesn't mean that they're all going to produce. So you just have to keep that in your mind, especially when you're going back and thinking of all the big features that you end up running through when you're going over your whole entire line. So, and I've even had issues with compost piles not hitting. I was about to say, help me, brother. So when I'm presetting, I mark down everything, and I'm not marking down every spot. I'm marking down the micro area. So I'm marking down the actual location, and then I'm going to map out how many traps I'm going to set. So whenever I'm coming out and I'm going to start presetting and running my line, I know exactly when I get out of the truck, hey, this is what I need to grab, and this is what we're doing. I carry a lot of equipment in my truck, but I don't use all that equipment, if that makes sense. Like I'll carry a pick matic, and whenever I'm presetting, I'll go out and I'll use the matic. But whenever I'm running my traps, I don't bring that out to remake my set. I just use my hammer. And I usually set 3 to 4 traps at a good location, and then I don't have to worry about popping in a fresh set, unless I really, luck out and hit a quad or something, which I haven't done in Ohio. So, like I said, whenever I come back, then I know what I'm doing, and whenever I'm getting into the presetting, I'll pick out a few weekends, which will be coming up, actually on my schedule, and I'll just go out and I'll set, 20 traps here, 30 traps there, or if I'm setting it on a work day, I'll bring 10 or 12, it could just depend. But you're just going to rinse and repeat. So I'll have over 100 traps preset on my line. Whenever I go to set, I use the sweat principle. So same way every time. And I learned this through being in the medical field. We do the same surgeries the same way every time. It doesn't matter, if you're white, black, if you're different, speak a different language. We do the same thing to the same, and that's what I do whenever I'm setting a trap. I dig the dirt hole or my trench set. I dig a flat set. It's the same way. There might be little variations, yeah, and that's when you have to kind of adapt and overcome. So, like working in hard ground, Like I trapped out west. The ground is hard in some spots, really hard. And a Pickmatic does a very good job making a pilot hole. Pilot hole for your Super Steak or your Berkshire, whatever. And you can also make a punch hole with it if it's real bad, and at least then you can smear something. I also carry a lot of T-bones in that instance because you have to adapt and overcome. If you're trying to take an auger into concrete dirt, it's just going to start smoking on you. And what do? Do you just say, oh, I can't set here? If it's a good spot, I'm setting there. I don't care how. So pre-baiting, there, I said it, instead of pre-attracting. I do pre-bait. I don't do it on every spot, but I do it in certain locations, especially spots that I know I can get to and get out of the sight of anybody, and that's fairly hard to do here in Ohio. But I get old cooking oil from a couple mom and pop shops. They have 55-gallon drums, and I can take one of those little self pumps and then just drain it out, get as much oil as I want. And a cool thing to do is, say you're snaring a trail or you're wanting to set up in a big four-way crop change, you can take your auger and just drill straight down and drill a hole. It can be this big, it can be as big as you want it or deep as you want it. Then I fill those holes up with grease. And especially in the wintertime, when you do that, it'll soak in, and those coyotes will come through and they'll try and dig it up. Something tries to dig it up. So, yeah, and then I don't ever set on exposed bait. I do follow the laws in Ohio. Typically, when I'm going out and I'm about to start setting traps, all I'm doing is I'm finishing the baiting. I'm waiting at least a week to 10 days, and then I'm going out and setting. So there should be no scraps left, no exposed bait, so to say. With the logistics, so I really, it's something you don't want to take lightly. You don't want to be backtracking. You don't want to be driving out of your way. You don't want to essentially become less efficient. So if you take efficiency and you try and break it down throughout your whole line, it can be a little overwhelming sometimes to some people. And I know I can say that because it was a little overwhelming to me, but it's just like anything. Once you learn it or once you figure out how to do it, you kind of can have a pretty good system. And I run 2 loops. So I always start west, I go up north, and I come back east and finish south. And it's kind of like a figure 8, so to say. The only time I backtrack is when I'm coming down Lower Twin Road back to my house. That's the only time I backtrack. You make 2 stops. So, are you able to stay species specific? Are you able to just say, hey, I want to go out and I want to catch only coyotes or only canine? Are you able to cross up that nice looking culvert or that bridge or that smoking hot coon trail and just say, look, I'm just going to catch coyotes or fox or whatever? I have a hard time doing it, but I was able to do it for several years, and it has paid off, but it's difficult. It can be difficult saying, oh man, I really like to catch that mink, but I'm here to catch coyotes. So, and like I said, if you're getting fat and sassy instead of staying in shape, that's okay. I love all that stuff too, but I try to stay in somewhat decent shape. As I was telling Mr. Huber, I'm going to do a sprint triathlon up in April, so I'll be loving life then. Funding. Are you able to pay for it? Do you have enough money set back? Do you have enough time set back? Do you have enough equipment? Or are you swapping out constantly? Need a reliable vehicle. You need 10-ply tires. I don't care what anyone says. Equipment. Can you afford the equipment? Do you have plenty of it? And just wanted to say a big thanks to the guys at the OSTA. You're welcome. Thank you. So, going through that, if there's any questions, just start popping them off at me. I don't care to be stopped. Some of the equipment I run, this is, I had this made. This was an old Bob Went replica, pretty much. Instead of a round, I went with square tubing. I went off Bob's recommendations, wanted it as wide as my hands, so I wasn't gripping and spinning on it. I use a trowel, sifter, hammer, stake, and this is what I use to make my or to set my super stakes. You can use it to set Berkshires, but I find that it can be a little challenging. So I run the No BS, the wire lever, and I set it up on twist link chain, and then I come off a little ways off the terminal end, and then run that staking system. When I'm doing this, this allows me to twist this off, take this piece off, save it. I didn't want to get rid of my super stakes, but I kept having chain pop on me. So I just went with 1/8 inch cable, and
How are you pulling those? How are you pulling them?
I'm pulling them from all this right here.
I know, but how do you get them out of the ground?
Crowbar, or
It doesn't stress out the cable too much? Or?
I haven't had any issues. I hope, but that's the thing, is if I do, instead of trying to re-weld an S-hook or something, I can just throw another 1/8 inch on there. So I didn't want to waste my super stakes, so I was trying to figure out a way to keep them in action. And then when I go out of state, I pop all these off and I run Berkshires, and then just disposables, and then you can just cut and go. And it's worked fairly well. It's done its job. So, and I just run a simple plain Jane Berkshire. This is something that I really like to use, and I just leave it in the back of my truck, but it's comes with a clipping system, and I can just clip it on, and I'm hands-free going, and you can get different configurations of bags. I kind of fabricated this a little bit and put some stuff in there so I can hold my bait fork, file, and then I just carry bait and urine, and I use Coyote urine and just the bait I make. I got this from Phil Brown, but then I also got a little updated refresher from Mr. Hoban, but they use Gatorade bottles, and you just put dry dirt in it, and you can do a couple sets with one of these. And Mr. Hoban even told me stack them in milk crates, and it works really, really well. Like I said, the other things I use, just bones. I'll use pipes, grass. I save up a bunch of grass. I dry it out. I store it in my lean-to. And there's really, it's nothing crazy. It's just, this is just the way I do things. And here, baby, let's make some sets. Mm-hmm. Want to? Mm-hmm. So, starting out, when I'm coming into a location, like I said, I'm scouting it. I'm using my dog. We're looking over the place, do our thing. And then, so when I come to a spot and it's a good spot, I'm going to set probably three to four sets, typically. Hey, go sit with mommy. Okay, real quick. So I don't do anything fancy, just dig a small bed. Say this is going to be a flat set. I don't, like I said, I don't do anything fancy. Hey, don't touch this. Okay. And then I usually always set at 12 and 6 with my levers. It doesn't matter which side you want your pan on. It's not a big deal, in my opinion. I don't really judge how far I set back. I've kind of done it so many times. Everyone says 9 inches. If I was going to be doing that, I would kind of base it off like that. And if I'm going to use like a rock, I don't like the wide part of the rock. I like to have a very narrow tip, especially like if you're using a pipe or a bone. You've got a very focal spot for them to be attracted to, or to be focused in on. So I'll put everything right there, and then I even put some stuff under. I tell you, it don't matter which side you like your to be. I always like it to be on this side though, but it doesn't. It really doesn't matter. So You set it in. I make sure it's not tippy. I don't want it to be rocking all over the place. I try and get it as packed in as the best I can, but I don't overthink that. Sometimes having like analysis paralysis is bad, and that's just where you're overanalyzing something and you can't make a decision on it. And the one thing I always say, do you know what the enemy of good is? It's great. So you already got it good. It's already good. Don't fumble around and try and make it great and then ultimately ruin things. So I'm not going to plant my steak, but as you know, you could see, hey baby, you grab my sifter? Huh? Yep. Thank you. And I use I don't use any pan cover here at home when I'm out. I use a wire screen. I just kind of like a roughed up pattern. I don't just pretend that's not there. Here, I'll try. So I like a roughed up pattern. I don't like for it to be all neat and prim and proper. And then I guide with dirt clods. I don't like, you obviously don't like rocks, but I feel like my trap can bust through those. And I do very well guiding with dirt clods. So where's that bone at? Grab that bone, baby. So if you're not using a rock, you can dig out a little hole and you can plant a bone. And what I would probably do is I would probably take this and try and break this in half and then plant it where the hollow cavity is, and then use that, kind of like a pipe.